Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to the PHLY Flyers pregame show presented by Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY hockey to get Coors Light delivered or to find a store near you. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for this pregame. Joining me, we have a full house tonight. We have Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter, Charlie O'Connor, as well as Broad Street Hockey's own Kelly Hinkle. What's up tonight, guys?
Gang's all here.
They are. It's
we're going to be here for quite a while.
It's fun.
Oh boy, Charlie's already.
I hope everyone is prepared to join us, not only for this pregame show, not only for your regularly scheduled postgame, but also the watch along. That's right. We're going to be with you for the first, second, third, and because we're doing this, probably overtime and shootout.
Why would you say it?
I'm expecting.
Because it's best to lower your expectations.
No.
Like they told us with Matvei Michkov. And then look how happy we are. 9 points in 9 games. Everything's great. But yeah, make sure you stay tuned right here on the PHLY Sports YouTube page. We're going to be with you all night, fam, so I hope you are prepared for this. And right before we went live, we will start with tonight's lineups, or at least what we expect the lineups to be.
That's right, Charlie.
Charlie's here, so I can't just stalk his Twitter until he has the line rushes. But
they ran the line combinations up in Boston during the morning skate. Jackie Spiegel, the Inquirer, was there, so we have them.
And the Flyers tweeted out earlier, Delorier's coming out, Bobby Brink going back in, and so we have the line combinations. And as of right now, it's just the thing that seems to make the most sense.
Get a load of these lines.
And listen, I have said, like, a couple of shows ago, I get why Torts is, like, moving everything around because none of these pieces fit and nothing's working. But now that Sean Couturier, we seem to have found a home for him, we can sort of fill everything else in, and this is probably as good as we can do. And hopefully everything clicks, everything works. We have Coots centering Konechny and Misch. We have Frost centering Tippett and Forster, Lawton centering Farabee and Brink, and Paling, Cates, Hathaway on that fourth line. So no one getting any doghouse treatment, it seems, at least to start the game. And maybe the most interesting thing is the defense. Emil Andre stays in. Yegor Zamula stays out. It's like 3 years, and I still can't quite nail it.
There were multiple people who made
the Y off. And then insisted that we say the Y.
Yeah,
it's like an unsilent Y. Like, what's the opposite of a silent Y? It's a loud Y. It doesn't actually exist.
A loud Y.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just, I get why you messed up.
Anyway, Emil Andre, who I thought, I wouldn't say he was impressive because, like, who the hell was impressive in that game?
Nobody was better than.
But like, he looked as good as any of the other defensemen.
Yeah.
Travis Sanheim had a standout game for the most part, but it's not like he didn't make mistakes too. But I thought he was as good as anyone out there, and he remains in the lineup. It seemed as if it was, all right, we'll see about Zamula, we'll see about Andre, and here we are. A couple of days later, we're seeing Andre stays in. What do we make of that?
Well, we did talk about this particular scenario during the preseason.
Yeah.
The idea of, well, maybe they could do a situation where Andre makes the team and he's in a rotation with Zamula. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different because Cam York is no longer healthy, so he's out for a bit. We'll see how long he ultimately is out for. But this does give them the opportunity now that you have, well, you had only, I guess, 6 healthy defensemen. If you want, you could turn it into something of a rotation because Zamula, yes, he played last year, but he is still a developing defenseman. Andre is also a developing defenseman. Like, it's not that long ago that Yegor Zamula counted as a prospect. He's not a prospect anymore, but he's still in that young player category.
Don't know what he is.
Emil Andre is also in the young player category. He just happens to not have that much NHL experience. So I don't hate the idea of them being in a rotation, especially given the fact that in Andre's first game with the team this year, looked pretty good.
I don't hate it either because Zamula has not looked good.
It's been rough.
Yeah, I'm not saying he needs to be punished with scratches, but he probably needs to take a minute to think about what he's done.
Now, if this does become a rotation, and we talked a couple of shows ago about, listen, Eric Johnson, yeah, none of us are like super enthused about his like seeming place in this lineup where he's kind of the 7, but he is the veteran. You do respect the veterans sometimes, and unless their name is like Sean Couturier. And he did sign to be the 7. He maybe didn't sign to be the 8. So if this kind of becomes a rotation and Andre isn't like guaranteed a spot, but he's playing sometimes, usually, like what's the line of, all right, just send him to the Phantoms or keep him up here because 2 out of every 3 ain't bad? Like, is that, where do we make that line?
The answer I think we got last season with Mark Stahl, because there was a point where the way the rotation filled out, Mark Stahl barely played.
Yeah.
And I could see that happening if Emil Andre continues to play well. They obviously want one Zamula never playing. And maybe Eric Johnson becomes the cost of that. I don't think they wanted that to be the thing right off the jump, but maybe it does at some point.
It will not be a thing until he reaches 1,000. Like, that would be shocking.
I disagree with you. I really, because he's going to get it. He's not that far away from it. We're only 9 games into the season. What does he need? 4? 6?
I think it's 6.
6 or 7? He's going to get there.
He'll get there this
guys
season.
are going to get hurt. He's going to get that opportunity. I don't think they need to be terrified of because the only way he doesn't get it in some form or another is if they bench him for a couple games and then he gets hurt in his first game back and misses the rest of the season. And in that case, sorry, I would feel bad for him because I'd like to see him get 1,000 games, but that's not the Flyers' fault.
And when we've seen, you and I talked about this, I think off the air a couple of days ago, Charlie. I always think of the Keith Yandel streak, but Keith Yandel has that was his thing.
Yeah,
that's what it was. Only thing. You still hear him talk about it. He wasn't happy that he got scratched, and it was
still very bitter.
You were horrible. Truly horrible. Eric Johnson has accomplished more. He's already, his name is on the Stanley Cup.
He's fine.
Maybe the 1,000 thing isn't the be all end all for him, and if not, cool. But he's gonna get there.
I disagree. I disagree with the overarching premise that they're gonna keep playing him until he gets to 1,000. I don't think that's the case.
I don't think it's he's gonna be steady in the lineup. If they have 6 healthy guys. Yeah, he's not playing. He's the 7. But maybe there's just a little bit of consideration made that he is first man up. Maybe even after he gets to 1,000 because he signed to be the 7.
That would be my expectation.
Maybe it's just, I signed here for a reason. And we do have a pretty young, unproven, mediocre defense. Why wouldn't you go with me? I would understand that as well. At least the guy who knows what to do.
Play.
Yeah.
And I know there might be some feeling of, well, he's an old guy. He doesn't need to play. He can just sit. That's never the way they do it with these guys. Now, Mark Stahl, for example, did not play that much. He finished with 30-something games, but he still played.
And most of them were
in and out of the lineup.
Most of them were before the new year.
Yeah.
It was, all right. So that's the defense. I'm excited to see some more Emil Andre, hopefully. Maybe this is the building block. Maybe this is, he's more ready than we thought, and we're thinking about keeping him around after Cam York comes back. We'll see how that plays out. Bobby Brink drawing back into the lineup, something I want to discuss a little. Bobby Brink is by no means a complete player, a guy who you play in all situations. You have to shelter his minutes, and maybe ultimately he is third-line scorer who helps you on either power play unit. Maybe that's just what he is.
Maybe.
It seems as if a team that cannot score could use a guy like that.
One would think.
But what does he have to do other than be something he's not to be out of the bubble? It just seems like he's one of those guys. Him, and we saw it in the last game of the season last year, and we're seeing it already this season. Frost, him and Frost, when things go wrong, they sit. And listen, I'm not a huge Morgan Frost fan. I'm about up to here with him, whether it's their use of him, whether I'm just tired of hearing his name, I don't know. But Bobby Brink, it just seems like he started the season with 4 points in 4 games, and then suddenly he was expendable. Why? What else does he have to do other than produce on the score sheet? Because ultimately, that's what his role is going to be.
Yeah.
He's never going to be anything else than that.
I can't answer your question because it doesn't make any sense to me that he is so quick to be put onto the bench whenever anything goes wrong. I think it's just it's the Frost button, as Charlie calls it. Outside of him hitting the bench Morgan Frost button, the next button down on the switchboard is the bench Bobby Brink button. And so I feel like Morgan Frost, Brink can't afford to make any huge glaring errors Because if he does, that's going to be it for him. If the game's going poorly and he does something wrong, it's going to be on him, regardless of any other circumstance that's happening around him. Is that fair? No, but it seems to be what the case is. And like looking at those forward lines, like the Flyers don't have a ton of talent, right? This is, in my opinion, like you've cracked it as far as what this roster could give you. Like this is the optimal formation,
Like,
in my opinion.
I think Cates and Lawton could switch places.
Yeah.
But like for the most part, this is what makes the most sense.
Yes. And so I really do hope, and I don't think that this will be the case, but I really do hope that maybe these lines could stick together for like 10 minutes tonight. Like maybe just see if this actually works. I don't know if it'll happen, but I would really love to see Brink and Farabee find a way to get going again, because when they were clicking together, it was a lot of fun to watch.
They do have chemistry.
They
They
do.
legitimately
And
do.
both of them
do have
need to get it
chemistry.
going.
They showed it in the early part of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Brink, really what it boils down to, number one, he doesn't have that much money in the bank. In comparison to most of the other
The old
guys.
Vino deposit withdrawal.
Deposits and withdrawals. Yeah. He hasn't. The guy I compared him to, and John Tortorella more or less confirmed it when I asked him about it in camp, the guy I compared him to entering this camp was Cam York entering last camp, because going into last year's camp, and obviously Cam York has dramatically risen in the estimation of John Tortorella since then, but going into last year's camp,
He said as much.
he did. He straight up said it when Cam York got hurt a couple days ago. But what John Tortorella said about Cam York back then was, I don't even know yet if he's a full-time NHL player. I just don't know. He needs to prove it to me. I think that's where he's at with Bobby Brink. Whereas the other guys who could be plausible scratch options for this team, he at least believes they are full-time NHL players. Whereas with Brink still needs to show him that he is. And until he does that, he is going to be one of the first guys coming, especially because even though he did score points in the early season, I didn't love his game. He had a couple good plays,
Yeah.
but I don't think he looked that good. And obviously he has the really bad turnover on one of the two shorthanded goals that they had a few games back. And I just think that was kind of the last straw for Torts. But I don't think it was just that. I think there were other things. And then you add in the fact that he just doesn't have the same money in the bank that a Joel Farabee has. Because at the very least, Joel Farabee's an NHL player. How good he is, we can debate that. He's an NHL player. Yep. I don't think John Tortorella is fully convinced yet that Bobby Brink is an 82-game-a-year NHL player.
Not to mention, and maybe it's just as simple as this. Like, I said this a few shows ago, thing Farabee has going for him, only natural left winger in the lineup. We have TK. He's playing out of position, but he's a right winger. Michkov, Forster, Tippett, Hathaway, Brink. 6 guys for 4 right wing spots. Maybe it's just a numbers thing. Like, that's maybe what it just comes down to. Like, yeah, maybe him and Farabee, the coach is like, I could sit either of them. But what makes the most sense for my lineup? Having one guy who shoots left-handed and plays the left side. Like, maybe it's just that simple, and we have to live with it. I just think finding out about guys, I don't know if Bobby Brink's any good whatsoever. He might stink. He might be a guy who can put up a couple of points here and there, disappear for weeks at a time, and maybe he isn't an everyday NHL player, and the coach is proven right. Let's find out.
Yes.
We have 2 wins. This
That's
is
the
what
thing.
a rebuild is.
Right. What is there
Finding
to lose?
out.
Right. Because
I don't need Nick Delorier in the lineup,
Exactly.
especially if, I don't know, the best player in the team is going to get punched in the face by David Savard. Nothing's going to happen to him.
Right.
Well, they felt like they needed Delorier in the lineup against the Capitals because Tom Wilson and all that stuff.
Yeah, McElrath, they have heavy guys.
And then Minnesota is...
They've always been that way.
They're a big team. They play big. I think he earned the Montreal game because he played pretty well.
He did play well.
And then against Montreal, he wasn't very good, and now he's out. Like, that's why Delorier is in the lineup. It's not some, weird sort of convoluted thought process. It's pretty obvious the thought process they're using.
Oh, no, I understood it. Like, when they have the back-to-back against the Caps, it's like, yeah.
If you have Delorier on your roster, that's the team you have to play.
They have a dude who does, they have a couple of dudes who play that way.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, Delorier was in Minnesota at one point. Minnesota's always had a couple of dudes
who play that way.
Who play that way.
is the GM, and he is very much one of those guys who believes that is very important.
Billy Guerin, absolutely, from the 90s.
Yeah.
Like, he thinks that way. And listen, I do too. I think you need a couple of badasses. Now, I prefer those badasses to be able to play.
Yeah, you prefer a Wayne Simmons.
Like Wayne Simmons, but like the reason we loved Wayne Simmons is because there aren't that many guys like that.
Right.
That's why they're talking about Tom Wilson making Team Canada.
Yeah.
Like, because, wow, if stuff starts to pop off, who's going to challenge Tom Wilson? He's the alpha in that situation. Like, we will then win those fights.
Right.
So I get it, but like, I just want to see Bobby Brink in the lineup because I want to find out. I like some of the things he does. And yeah, you have to shelter him. But sometimes you need guys like that. How many one-dimensional defensive dudes have we seen over the years that get unlimited chances even though they bring nothing offensively? You're allowed to be, and this isn't a John Tortorella problem. This is an all coaches are bad problem. You're allowed to be one-dimensional or even zero-dimensional as long as that dimension is perceived to be defense.
Yes.
If it's offense, then it's like, well,
I don't like that.
we can't have that. And it's like, well, we can't win 0-0. That's actually something you can't do.
No.
I just will never understand.
I want to throw this back, though, because this is an interesting thought experiment when you really break it down. Okay. You just acknowledge, this is just going to be me asking you a question and asking you, okay, what would you do? You just acknowledge that, look, if you have Nick Delorier, you're probably going to play him against Washington and Minnesota. So, okay, you've made the decision. All right, Nick Delorier is on our roster. He's playing those games. Accounting for the fact, and this is a very, very important factor that all coaches pay attention to, accounting for the fact that they don't want to mess up any of the essential special teams units, who would you have taken out instead of Brink? Because you've got Scott Lawton's on the top PK unit, Ryan Poehling and Garner Hathaway are on the top PK unit, Morgan Frost is on the top power play unit. Who is coming out other than Brink?
That's the other issue, and it just gets back to the like so many wingers thing.
Yeah.
Like the answer, especially the way he's been playing, probably Garnett Hathaway, but I'm not like the same reason you want Delorier. Like we need the other guy who can knock somebody out and kind of stir the pot back and do those things against. So it's really just a makeup of the team issue. Yeah. Like the same way it's a wingers numbers issue. It's also a makeup. Like we have these guys, we can't take them out, and the special teams comes into play as well. Yeah. It's going to be Brink. Yeah. It's just frustrating because I want to see them.
I think there were 3 guys who they plausibly could have scratched. One was Tyson Forrester, who they did scratch once.
They did scratch him.
Next was Bobby Brink, who they then scratched a bunch. And the other was Joel Farabee. And their view of Joel Farabee was he has more money in the bank than those guys. And he also just has more money, period. He's getting paid $5 million.
He's a $5 million player. I can't imagine everyone loves seeing a $5 million guy in the press box. And whether it's like we're trying to make him part of the future or eventually trade him, that lowers his value. Yeah. You know? All right, let's move on to the goaltender situation. This is the PHLY Flyers pregame presented by Coors Light. Drink your Coors Light, baby. Find those cold mountains in your fridge. Choose chill. Choose Coors Light. All right, Sam Ersson in net tonight. Do we know who the backup is?
Yeah, apparently it is Kolosov.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Fedotov is not dressed again.
Okay.
Sam Ersson on the season, 2-2-1 with an 8.72. Yikes! It's 53rd out of 70 goalies. Goals against over 3.5. I think he's been better than his numbers, but like better than his numbers is still pretty bad. You know? Yeah. Your save percentage is 8.72. Like, oh, he's been like an 8.88 goalie. Like, oh, well, that's horrible. According to Hockey Reference, goals save above average. I know a lot of different places average this out differently. I get all the stats from one place, not going to go hunting.
Okay.
Negative GSAA, and not a great one considering he's been in 5 games.
And that's just below league average. That is GSAA. That is not accounting for shot quality.
Yes.
However, his shot quality numbers aren't great either.
And they have, like, again, we have blamed the goalies a lot. But last show, we were like, yeah, listen, no team has an 850 save percentage, and it's all on the goalies. You have to be giving up way too many opportunities. The Flyers absolutely have. It starts with their inability to break out, sustain offense on the forecheck and everything. They're just on defense too much. Teams are going to score. That's what's happening. How much is on him, though? Like, Sam Ersson, awesome opener against the Canucks. He was very good. He's been all right at times since then. How much are we putting on Ersson through his, and again, first 5 starts?
I mean, unfortunately, so far this season, it seems like he's good for at least one real clunker a game, which is really not what you want from your number one goaltender. You would like to maybe see them go several stretches of games without giving up a bad goal. And he seems to be good for, it seems like 1 or 2 weak goals a game. But again, that might be the function of the fact that he's just seeing so many shots because the team in front of him is garbage for the most part. But, you know, last season we had a goaltender that was able to steal games like that. And it doesn't seem like right now we have a guy that's capable of being the best player on the team.
I think the Minnesota game was the only game I thought he played actively bad. But there's a difference. There's a distinction between actively bad and still not making the saves that you need. And he's definitely falling on the latter front, even when he's not playing horrific in like the Fedotov sense. The only game I thought he played legitimately great in was the first game of the year. The results in the Edmonton game were okay, but a lot of those shots hit posts. He got bailed out a lot by some good luck. And then ever since then, he's been whatever until the Minnesota game where I thought the Flyers, yes, it was a weird game because they only have 6 shots on goal through 2 periods, but Ersson gave up at least 2 goals that he should have stopped. Like, that should not have been as close by the end as it ultimately was. If Ersson can stop an unscreened distance shot, they're fine. They win anyway, but that was the first game I thought he was actively bad.
I thought you put it well yesterday's show when we talked about Ersson a little, and you said your number one needs to make some of those 50-50 saves.
Where it's like some breakaways.
Where it's like, that would be it's hard to fault him, but also it'd be nice to have 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah.
And he hasn't made a ton of the that's a nice save. Like, he saved them there. And they just need a little bit more of that if they're going to win games. That said,
the stealth tank's going real well.
We have said time and time again, the easiest way for a mediocre team to have that tank year is the goaltending just go in the toilet. And
well on our way, baby.
Yeah,
That's
9 games in.
They have the worst save percentage in the league, and it's real bad. It's like 8. I actually heard this. So we talked about the 5-on-5 save percentage for the team yesterday at 851. I'm listening to Flyers Daily on the way here, and he just says, Martinez says the full team save percentage, all situations, 853. They're stopping more on the penalty kill.
I love
and
this
especially considering like they gave up a couple of they gave up a couple of shorthanded goals like in one game. You got to believe that tanks the shorthanded save percentage because how many opportunities do teams get?
One assumes.
So they're stopping more on the penalty kill than they are 5-on-5, continuing the trend of this team just being ridiculous all the time.
They have a save percentage while shorthanded of 89.58. Look, that is actually noise. Like, we can laugh about it. There's no way that's holding. And that's not even there's no way they're going to keep scoring more shorthanded goals than power play goals from last year. Like, that was a case of the power kill being real good and the power play being awful. Like, this is luck. They're probably going to start allowing more power play goals soon because you generally can't hold a 90% save percentage on the power, while shorthanded because they got one more guy than the other. But by the same token, expect the 5-on-5 save percentage to go up.
All right. Something that may kill that penalty kill save percentage. It's David Pastrnak. The Flyers killer. Looked up some numbers on Pasta. They actually did okay against him last year. In the first game against him on January 27th, 2 goals and an assist, your regular Pasta game. But from there, 2 meetings in March, combined 0 goals, 1 assist in those 2
shutting
games.
Him down.
Did pretty well against them. 32 career games against the Flyers. 26 goals, 31 of them in the regular season and 1 in the bubble. I don't remember if it counts as regular or playoff, but I brought up his game sheet against the Flyers, his game logs, 32 games. I mean, there are so many multi-goal games in there. It's unbelievable. I mean, 26 goals. You got to believe. Is tonight we're not doing bets, honestly, because I've been getting killed. I'm taking a couple of days off. But if you were to make a bet at Bet365 tonight, it's Pasta, and it's probably 2+.
At least
he
one,
does
right?
kill them.
At least one.
Yeah. He kills them. and shutting him down seems to be the thing. And Boston not off to the best start. The last couple of years, they're like, with the goalie tandem that they had, President's Trophy contenders, dominant. Not that great this year. They have 5 power play goals, 3 of them scored by Pasta alone.
There we go.
But that's it.
Underlying metrics this year, 5-5 for the Bruins.
Boston just has not been good.
I pulled them up. 26th in expected goals for percentage of 5-on-5. That's worse than the Flyers. And then 27th in Corsi for percentage, so shot attempt percentage, also worse than the Flyers.
This is the year. This is the game. They're going to win in Boston.
Okay.
In
First
Boston,
time since 2021.
shut out Pasta. Yeah.
This
will be first time since believe it was April 5th, 2021 in the was that the season they only played like regionally? Like they'd play like a 2 or 3 game set against the team and then travel somewhere else and do the same thing all over again. So that's the last time they beat the Bruins in Boston.
The opportunity is there.
If they're going to do it, they need a couple of guys to get going.
Yes.
These are, I'm going to name 5 players. And tell me if they're not 5 of the 6 that were like, okay, these are the dudes we need to see. And the 6th is Matvei Michkov, who was like, well, we have no previous, but we just need him to be good because if he's not, we're screwed. Yeah. Owen Tippett, 1 goal, 6 points. Joel Farabee, 1 goal, 4 points. Morgan Frost, no goals, 4 points. Jamie Drysdale, 1 goal, 3 points. But our criticism of him, Charlie, has been over the top, apparently.
And, according to someone on Twitter, yes.
And Tyson Forster, 1 goal, 2 points. These are all the dudes we're like, we need to see them take a step this year. That's how this rebuild gets from point A to point B, is these guys, the young core, being better. They haven't to start the season. In fact, they've been a major disappointment. It's the reason, outside of goaltending, that they're 2-7 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your level of concern for these 5?
If we're doing like the terrorism chart, like the red, orange, yellow, if we're doing that level of concern, I'd say I'm between a yellow and an orange for most of them. I'm definitely concerned about Owen Tippett. I know goal scorers are streaky, but
we need...
You got to hit the net once or twice. Like I need you to do something.
We need you to get on a streak.
You got to be on it. Yeah. Like when are we going to get on one? Because
you've
been off one for a while.
My thing with Tippett is his current level of production, the level he's been at the previous 2 seasons, 27, 28 goals. That's fine value for the contract they signed him to.
Yeah.
But we need surplus value somewhere.
Exactly.
Guys making fair money. That's not how you win championships.
No.
You win championships with Nathan McKinnon on a $6 million deal. And then he gets his 10, and then you figure it out from there.
Right.
But right now, Owen Tippett making fair money. We need him to be underpaid for this thing to really take off.
I think there's got to be a difference between guys you're worried about and guys you're annoyed
by.
Because I'm not worried about Owen Tippett. I fully expect he's going to go back to being like a 30-ish goal scorer. But I get why you guys are angry at him, because it's like, score more goals, dude. What the hell? I'm not worried that he's not good. The 2 guys on this list that I'm the most concerned about, because I just don't know what is up with their overall games right now, are Tyson Forster and Morgan Frost. Because those, Tippett may not be scoring the goals, okay? And he may have had 2 or 3 games to start the year where he was missing all the shots. He's got 6 points, which, not great, but not terrible.
Not horrible.
He's picking up some assists. He's got good underlying metrics.
Real nice play on the Konechny goal the other night.
He's created chances. He's just not finished, and goal scorers are streaky. Whatever. I can handle it. Joel Farabee, if you would have asked me that question before Sunday's game, I would have been a lot more concerned. Thought he showed something on Sunday. I'm hopeful that he can build off of Sunday's game when he was actually buzzing a bit and maybe can score a goal tonight and get himself out of this. Jamie Drysdale, I just fully expected it was always going to take time anyway. So... would it be awesome if he showed up this year and was immediately Sean Walker? Yeah, it would have been cool. I'm not expecting it. Whereas Frost and Forster especially, I expect it more from. Morgan Frost was basically handed that center job with Matvei Michkov to start the year. He did not take advantage of it. Spent some time on the 4th line 2 days ago. Tyson Forster, he had a not that great camp, but you kind of pushed it away because it's like, whatever,
And he scored the first goal of the season. You're like, all right, here we go.
He's not playing the two-way game. There's a reason why John Tortorella scratched him. This is like one of his favorite dudes. I don't know what's up with Tyson Forrester, but he needs to get it going.
All right, before we wrap up, let's hit those super chats. 2 from Gary B. The first one, does Torts give Frost the Tortsy treatment we need?
Well, he kind of did already.
His creativity on the ice. Listen,
he put him on the fourth line.
They do need him out there. He's between two guys who are supposed to be able to score. He's the setup man. It should work. But honestly, it's not unwarranted. The Torts treatment for Morgan Frost has sucked most of this year.
Yep.
Be better, guy. Out of everyone on this list, he's the one I'm most concerned by because he's the one who I think is the least consistent, and he's the one who I have no idea what his future is, and he hasn't been good to start the year.
Big thing that's saving him right now is that he's on that top power play.
Yeah.
And that is what I think is keeping him in the lineup and keeping John Tortorella from hitting the, in case of emergency, bench Morgan Frost button.
All right, and this next one from Gary B. says the B to lose. What does this mean?
The Bruins
the
lose
Bruins
and the
lose
Yankees
to us,
get
and the
swept
Yankees
tonight.
get swept.
Oh, yeah. That's right. There's the World Series going on. I thought baseball
That's the
ended 2
spirit,
weeks
Gary.
ago.
Yeah, functionally, it did.
It did. All right. That'll do it for us tonight. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. Stay right here on the YouTube page. We will be live in just a few minutes with our watch along. Until then, this has been the PHLY Flyers pregame show presented by Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY hockey to get Coors delivered or find a store near you. I'm Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. That's Kelly Hinkle. We'll be back in a few. Let's go Flyers.
We all silly like the mayor.